13th of January, 1945. Saturday.
Fáy Hildegard.
Castle District, Attila Street 6. 23 years old, college student. Every shop is filled with horses, left without food or water. My heart aches for them. The Russians, flying low, shoot at the display windows for this reason. When a horse is injured, Hungarian soldiers shoot it to end its suffering. Someone begins skinning a dead horse, cutting pieces of meat and distributing them to women standing with pots and buckets. In the afternoon, a man staggered through the street, his eyes vacant. He was seated by the gate, given water. When he regained some awareness, he began stammering. The low-flying planes, their bullets pierced the floor, they hit the horse too. The writhing horse fell into the shelter. Onto the people, he repeated. There's no bathroom fuss anymore. Water is scarce. Snow from the small courtyard cannot be melted because it's mixed with debris and glass shards. The daily ration, 1 mugful. A sip in the morning to rinse your mouth, another in the palm for face washing, a sip or 2 for breakfast, and the rest rationed throughout the day. Still, we must go for water. Today, I stood in line in the stairwell of the school on Christina Square, on the upper floor. Hungarian soldiers are stationed in the basement, so a guard is posted at the gate. A nearby explosion caused chaos. Everyone fled in panic. The young soldier standing guard lay on his back, a pool of blood forming at his feet. He groaned in pain, his entire body trembling. His head hit the ground with a sickening thud. Oh, my God, his head. I knelt beside him, my arms becoming a makeshift pillow under his neck. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Help!" The medics heard me. They crawled over carefully with a makeshift stretcher, knowing there would likely be more gunfire. And there was. Luckily, the shots missed, skimming past the corner. They took him away. I stayed there on the ground, trembling now myself, unable to move. That poor young soldier, barely more than a boy. And me. There was a pool of blood, and I'm not the bravest, yet I went to him.
János Tolnai.
15 years old, District 12.
Kis János Altábor Nagy Street.
The water shortage is becoming increasingly severe. No water flows from the pipes. There is no electricity, and fuel is scarce. Kerosene is also running out. Stores are giving away everything they have left, sugar cubes, raisins, vegetables, and fat, for free. The exhaustion is becoming more apparent among the residents of the basement, largely due to the lack of proper rest. I, too, wish I could just sleep, ignoring everything, unaware of anything. Our life-threatening situation is worsening, becoming more and more unbearable. In addition to the mortars, now the Katyusha rocket launchers, known as the Stalin organs, are fraying our nerves. The Germans have set up a cannon on the roof of the building, increasing the danger to us as the Russians can now target and pinpoint the firing location. Because of this, whenever we hear the sound of the cannon, we can't tell whether it's the Germans firing or the Russians hitting our building. Either way, the entire structure shakes, all the way down to the basement. We are increasingly feeling the effects of lice infestation. Due to the lack of washing facilities, parasites are spreading among the residents crammed into the basement. I could only get rid of the lice on my clothes by burning my sweater, as they bit constantly, day and night. The water shortage often leaves us without even the most basic cleaning. In this overcrowded basement, an infectious disease would be catastrophic. We could even catch something from the German soldiers, who shake the lice out of their clothes on the upper balconies without regard for those of us walking below. Russian planes bombed the area around us. Flying low, they strafed the windows of buildings and the people in the streets. Everyone, including us, retreated to the basement, our only shelter, fearing the bombs might hit us too. Being wounded now is especially dangerous. There are no medicines, no bandages, and no doctors to be found among us. Even relief for something as simple as a toothache or headache is unavailable. We must endure this as well.
Miksha Fenyu.
66-year-old writer, lawyer. Pest, District 8, Haransky Street 11. We are experiencing everything hell has to offer. A part of the building above us just collapsed. The explosion was deafening, Rubble has blocked the ventilation window of the basement. Panic ensues, a faint breath of death passes over the group. I keep writing, maintaining a facade. Outside, in the hallway, the sound of gunfire from street battles is clearly audible. A medic who arrived here from Buda shares his story. Along his entire route he encountered neither Germans nor Russians. In his opinion, the Germans are no longer seriously defending Pest, but on the other side, in Buda, they are preparing for the fiercest resistance. Hell descended upon Buda today. The day was filled with terrible artillery fire and air raids. Along the streets, collapsed buildings, destroyed guns, mangled tanks, and dismembered horses litter the landscape. The wounded are not being evacuated, the dead are not being buried, and the soldiers are not being fed. Buda is hell. I think of my children. Here, for now, there is silence, but has our hell truly ceased?
Fehérpataki Dezső.
District 5, Inner City, Karoli Boulevard 10. Many Jewish people lived with us who had not moved into the ghetto. There was Gerende, always studying Spanish because he planned to emigrate to South America after the war. The building superintendent, Haas, had a young Jewish wife. It was probably just a marriage of convenience. On our floor lived a very reserved family from Poland, who had come to Hungary to stay with relatives. The older woman was very ill. She prayed constantly and eagerly awaited the arrival of the Russians. Together, we formed a kind of community. Groups of Hungarian soldiers, filthy and bloodied, came into our courtyard, collapsing from exhaustion. The back of our building adjoined the wall of a house on Semmelweis Street, with only a narrow air shaft in between. We tried persuading the soldiers to escape through there. As they left, the gate echoed with German commands. The Germans marched in, disciplined and orderly, asked for water and directions, and then left the same way as the Hungarian soldiers. Suddenly, silence fell. We were awakened by loud shouting and banging on doors. My mother went to the door, and soldiers burst in. From behind them, a small man appeared, apologizing profusely to my now awake father, saying they were hungry. Two soldiers began opening doors until they found the pantry, where they started eating the preserves with their hands, soon getting jam all over their faces. The small man, with a backpack on his shoulders, wandered into the bedroom and rummaged through one of the wardrobes. With uncanny accuracy, he found my mother's hidden money and wedding ring. With many thanks, they eventually left. This was my first encounter with the Russian army. Due to alarming news from neighboring buildings, the men formed an emergency response unit in the stairwell. We had a large bucket to bang as an alarm if anyone unauthorized tried to enter. At the sound of the alarm, the women would hide in the attic. One afternoon, soldiers appeared at the gate and began firing machine guns into the building without a word. We couldn't hold our position for long. They broke down the door and flooded the house. They grabbed the officer's daughter, who had not hidden because she wasn't afraid, and threw her onto the table. Alongside women and girls taken from neighboring buildings, she was assaulted. The Jewish family on our floor, who had been in hiding until then, emerged, perhaps hoping for a miracle. Despite her protests, the young woman was caught in the kitchen by 3 soldiers. In the bedroom, they dragged the ill older woman from her bed and assaulted her on the floor. The poor woman screamed, shouting in broken Russian that she was a communist and a Jew. Their laughter was the only response.